Hey everyone, welcome back to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about wrist pain. We've had a few of our students come to us and talk about how they're experiencing wrist pain. Some are new to the practice and are just getting used to being on their hands and bearing weight. Some are a little bit more experienced and are starting to feel maybe a little bit of overuse or some compression injury happening. So today I want to talk about the different types of wrist pain, how wrist pain can be caused, what things and lifestyle choices can lead to wrist pain, and how we're going to sort that out for you today. Wrist pain is so common because quite often people live sedentary lives, a lot of office jobs and computer work, which reinforces these bad habits. I think the most common cause of wrist pain for some of our clients have been the overuse from using a mouse and keyboard. When you use a mouse and keyboard in an office setting, quite often we put our wrists in a deviated position. Doing this constant typing motion whilst also in this ulnar deviated position can cause a lot of tightness through the wrist. This can be the cause of a lot of people's carpal tunnel because their arms stay in one position and their fingers are constantly moving, constantly working, sometimes up to 8 hours a day. It definitely causes overuse through the tendons in the hand. If you're always working at a desk, and some suggestions I've heard that really help is getting an ergonomic keyboard, which is a keyboard that's positioned in such a way that allows your hands to be in a more natural position when you type, stopping you from having the ulnar deviation and causing the chronic shortness here. So our lifestyle has a massive impact on the way we feel on a day-to-day basis. So that's why we think it's super important to take part in a movement practice, whether that be the gym, whether that be running, swimming, hiking, any sort of physical exercise that gets you up and moving is definitely healthy for you compared to sitting down all day at a desk. If your injury comes from something chronic or acute that happened, maybe it overstretched, maybe you put too much weight down on the wrist, maybe an accident in the gym, it may pay to alleviate some of the compression and just focus on the range of motions. And the reasons for that is very important for us being able to address it and for you being able to heal. In the context of a yoga class, quite often we're in plank poses where our hands are under the shoulders and we're putting pressure down into the ground. And it's common to feel wrist pain along the outside of the wrist in this position. That's what we call bad pain. We don't want to feel pain in the outside of the wrist because there's only a thin bit of cartilage here and there's not a lot of muscle to support our whole body weight. When I say good pain, we experience this discomfort maybe on the inside or the thumb side of the arm. There's more muscle there. That pain can be a sign that the muscle is weaker there and that it's working and pushing itself to try and hold our body weight, which over time is strengthening, provided that the pain is not sharp. It's more of a dull, burning sensation. Another type of pain that we don't want to feel is sharp stabbing pain. So if you feel sharp stabbing pain in the wrist, especially right at the joint here, that's a pain that we want to avoid. There is so much going on inside the wrist here. There's about 8 different bones that can all cause problems if we push too hard or we have any injuries that we don't address early on. So in today's video, we're going to address some ways that you can start to get some movement back into the wrists and the forearms, and other ways in which you can strengthen your arms and get that range of motion back to hopefully get you feeling better in your wrists. So now you know the difference between good pain and bad pain. It's important that before taking part in any sort of physical exercise or trying to heal yourself, that you do seek medical attention. If you have tried all the traditional routes, you've not seen much success, and you're just looking for something to do at home, then this practice is for you. If the pain gets worse after attempting some of these exercises, I'd suggest not continuing to do them or taking a break between each time you do them. It's important that when we practice these exercises and these movements, we don't push through sharp pain. If we push through the sharp pain, chances are we might end up making it worse. This practice is really about finding your pain-free range of motion and exploring that. And of course, we like to start off nice and gentle and we ease our way into the practice. To start with, try doing this practice once every 2 days or maybe once a day in the morning and just see how you go. These exercises can be done seated or they can be done standing. It's really up to you. I find it very easy to do them seated because I can rest my forearm on my thigh at the same time, which takes the weight off, but also done standing is very good as well. You just find what's comfortable for you. The first thing we're going to do today is just going to be some simple rotations of the wrist. So we start by having the right wrist next to us. We get our left hand, we grab underneath the wrist. So we don't want to grab right around the joint, we want to grab just underneath that joint so we can still move it. I like to keep that arm nice and still, so I really try and only focus on moving through the wrist. To start, I bring the palm towards the forearm, and then I circle the fingertips in towards the center, flare the fingertips through the bottom, to the outside, and back through the top. So we're doing some controlled rotations of the wrist. Try not to squeeze the wrist too hard with the left hand. Try and keep the rest of the arm still and focus on just moving the wrist. Connect to the breath. Reverse the circles the other way. Go nice and easy, focus on the smooth motion. And very good, bring the wrist back to neutral. From here we extend the hand out. We bring the fingertips to face up, and then we gently use the left hand, very, very gently pull on the fingers slightly, stretching the wrist. And we breathe. This is a very easy way to stretch out the forearm. It's very easy to build up tightness in the arm, especially from typing a lot. Very good. We let the hand fall down. Now we point the fingertips down to the ground, show the back of the hand to the front. Then we use our left hand, just grab over top of the knuckles, very gently guide that hand in, stretching the wrist and the forearm. Start off nice and gentle, avoid sharp pain. We want to find just the stretch without any sharp pain. Very good, gently release. Bring that forearm down. From here, I'm just resting my arm over the leg slightly. We're gonna make a little fist. And then we're just gonna gently dip the pinky down, stretching out the top side of the wrist. And then we're gonna lift the thumb side up, stretch that bottom side of the wrist. And we're just gonna nice and easy move our wrist up and down just like so. So we're trying to go through all angles and target all the ways the wrists can move with gentle movement. This is a great way to start rehabbing or getting the wrist used to movement, getting the blood flow and the circulation going, whilst waking up the muscles that may not have been used very often. So you'll explore how it feels for you. Very good. Now from here, we're going to bring that hand in a little bit. Our left hand grabs around the right hand just below the knuckles. All we do is we try and keep that right hand still, try and keep the arm still, and then we just gently pull with the left hand. So we're doing some traction. We're gently pulling that right hand out of the socket just a little bit, nothing major, just feeling the relief, creating a little bit of space in the wrist joint. We're breathing. Yeah, very good. Just release that. Let that hand float down. Now we can go for the other side. So left hand comes out to the side. Start with the palm facing the ceiling. The right hand grabs just below the wrist joint. And we start by bringing the palm towards the forearm. Flare the fingers, circle them in towards the center. Keep the forearm still. Bring the fingers down through the bottom, round to the outside and back through center. Try and circle nice and slow. Focus on smoothness of movement. You may notice your wrist is quite janky and notchy. That's completely normal. Over time, we work on getting the smoothness back. This is just not something our wrists are probably used to doing. Reverse the circles the opposite direction, going to the outside, then down through the bottom, then through the inside. And any clicking is normal, as long as it's not painful. You might also feel the muscles of the forearm starting to wake up. And the slower we move the wrist, the more mind-muscle connection we build. So I really want you to focus on that, going nice and slow. And very good. Bring the wrist back. From here, we're going to extend that hand out towards the front. The right hand grabs just onto the fingertips and nice and gently pull the fingertips back, feeling that slight stretch along the wrist. Be super careful, again, avoiding sharp pain. Just want to feel the stretch. Keep breathing. And release, very good. Now bring the back of the hand to face the front, fingertips point down, back of the right hand grabs behind the knuckle, keep the left arm slightly straight, very gently guide that hand in for a stretch along the forearm and the top of the wrist. Very good. Gently release and let that hand float down. So we've done our circles, we've stretched the top side, the bottom side. Now we're just going to stretch into the deviation. Close the fist, gently drop the pinky down. We're not squeezing that fist too hard, and then raise the thumb up. Drop the pinky down. Allowing our wrist to express all forms of movement, getting the blood flow back to the muscles. It may not feel like much, but we are building the mind-muscle connection into the wrist, as well as promoting blood flow, which helps with healing. Keep breathing through the nose. Try not to hold your breath. Very good. Now we bring that hand in. With our right hand, we grab underneath the knuckles and around the base of the thumb. Keep that left arm still, left hand stays strong. And then we just gently pull with that right hand, allowing that wrist to separate a little bit. Again, avoiding sharp pain. Just doing a bit of decompression. For some people, this may feel amazing, but for others, you might not feel much going on. And that's fine. We just want to avoid sharp pain, as always. Couple more deep breaths. And release. Very good. Now we're going to bring both hands out in front of us, close fists, and then we're going to flex the fingers. A little squeeze when we close the fist, and a little flex with the fingers. Just waking the forearms up a little bit. And very good. The last thing we're going to do while we're seated is we're going to go through the two options of rotation for the wrist. So we have pronation, which is the palms facing away, and we have supination, which is bringing the palms facing towards us. So we go from pronation to supination, just like this, rotating the hands. Again, it may not feel like much, but it's this sort of gentle motion that promotes healing and blood flow. And depending on how often you use your wrists and how often you bear weight with them, you might feel a lot going on. And very good. So that's our seated part of the class. If that was really intense for you, I'd recommend you do that again, so we go through it twice. But if it didn't feel like too much for you, then we can progress to the next part of this practice, which will be on our hands and knees. It's a little bit more intense. We're going to be bearing a little bit more weight onto the wrist, especially if your wrists are quite sensitive and you're quite new to the practice. Just stick with the seated rotations and movements we did. And then as you get better, as you feel more comfortable and that starts to feel easier, you can progress to this part of the class, which will be on the hands and knees. From here, what I want us to focus on, especially for a yoga class context, is our hand positioning. When we bear weight onto our hands, I'd like you to make sure that your hands are facing forward, because quite often I see people with their fingers facing outwards and they're still in their ulnar deviated position, which is very weak for the wrists. So we want at least to look at our middle finger and have that pointing straight forward. As well, we want to focus on our width of our fingers. So I'd like you to imagine you're high-fiving someone and then put that exact hand placement down on the ground. So your fingertips are slightly spread. They're not ultra spread, just slightly. When we push through the hands, I'd like you to focus on pushing through this part of the hand. So the base of the thumb and the base of the pointer knuckle, pushing through this L. So we do our best to bring our hands under our shoulders and push down into our hands. This allows the wrists to be in a stable position with even weight distribution. So we're not dropping the weight to the outside cartilage, which can get chronic and painful over time. We're evenly distributing the weight between the palms, and we're engaging the inner part of the forearm to assist us with the pressure. Now that we've got that out of the way, we try and rotate our biceps towards the front and show the eye of the elbow towards the front. From here, to start into the wrists, we keep the arms straight and we just gently start to pulse backwards and forwards. Avoiding sharp pain again, we're just nice and easy pulsing back and forward. And then you can start to circle around the wrists. And then reverse the circles the other way. Very good. Now we externally rotate the fingers, bring the hands slightly closer together, and then we gently sway left, lift the left palm up, and sway right, lift the right palm up. Stretching into the fingertips slightly. And we breathe the whole time. Very good. Now, if you can, we bring the fingertips to face towards the knees. If you can't, keep them where they were before. And we're going to sit back if we can. Keep the arms straight. Big stretch for the forearm. This could be really intense, so be nice and careful. And if you want to, you can start to bend one arm, lift the palm off at a time. You play around with what feels right. This is a really big stretch, so be careful. Focus on the breath. Gently released, fingers back. Now from here, we're going to turn the back of the left hand flat onto the mat. We're going to try and keep that hand straight, that arm straight, rotate the bicep to the front if you can. And then if you need to, you can sit back to apply the stretch some more. Big stretch for the forearm and the front of that wrist.
Very good. Slowly shift forwards, slowly release that hand back down to neutral. Then bring the back of the right hand flat onto the ground. If you can, keep the arms straight. Rotate the bicep to the front. Breathe in, and if you need to, you can sit back slightly to intensify the stretch along the forearm. Focus on the breath. And then shift forward, slowly release. Very good. We can sit back onto the heels, tuck the toes, shake the wrists. Interlace the fingers, roll some little figure eights. Very good. Couple more shakes. And back down. Come to a seat. That was the second part of our wrist practice done. A few other things to point out. Fixing the problem of wrist pain can be complicated. Some things I think have helped me a lot is by working on my pulling strength. You need to include that part of training as well. What's really helped me with my wrists has been having a pull-up bar and hanging from it. And it's also natural decompression for the wrists, and I've found it's really helped me with my wrists. We will be doing a video about this in the near future, talking about ways to begin your hanging practice, and then eventually progressing into more intense pull sort of exercises. But that's something to keep in mind. The first time going through this video, obviously there's a lot of information to digest, but the next few times and after a while, you should be able to be familiar with the routine so you can do it by yourself. It should take anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes to do. If you want to see progress and results, it's best to be consistent with this. You will see a great return on your investment, hopefully heal your wrists. I hope you find some value out of it, and thank you for choosing us to practice with today. Namaste.